What is up, guys? It's me, the ALE Prince, and I'm back. Before I continue on, let me just say where I've been, what happened, why I've disappeared. I feel like I always have an excuse, but this one is pretty serious. I won't get into specific because I don't want to get in trouble at my job or anything. But people have been uh, opening up stores again, and I got my job back. Unfortunately, we had to reclose because of the whole pandemic, and for safety reasons, I've been locked in my room. Uh, and basically, I've been like on lockdown for the past 2 weeks. I am okay. I am not sick. Uh, I've had a cold, but it wasn't like anything that serious. Just because what's it called? In my room, I have the fan going. I don't know if you can see it right now, but I have this habit of leaving fans on, and then it gets super cold later, and then I like start coughing. But I'm okay. Nothing to worry about. I am perfectly okay. I've been checked at the doctor. I've been tested. I am fine. I don't have COVID. Thank goodness. Now onto this video. How I or rebooking Goldberg from 2016 to 2017. Goldberg was probably one of the biggest names they could have gotten at the time. And I saw the Stone Cold interview where he talked about how the reason why he came back is because he wanted his kids to see what kind of a wrestler he was and stuff like that. And I think they got that point right. And I personally think he would have stuck around a little bit longer. He shouldn't have come back at Survivor Series. He should have came back at SummerSlam. Yes, he should have come back at SummerSlam 2016, make it an even bigger draw. Um, with that said, basically, let's just go back to it. I'm going to talk about a little bit of what I would do before Goldberg's arrival, just so everybody's caught up in my rebooking of Goldberg's comeback. So we start off at Money in a Bank, where the night after Money in a Bank, it's going to be the draft. They're going to draft people back and forth. However, every champion will be allowed to pick where they want to go, which brand they want to go. So that means at the time it was a WWE Championship, the Raw, or the Women's Championship at the time, the IC belt, the US title, and the tag belts. I think that was it for belts. Yeah, those are it. So New Day decide to go to Raw. Charlotte decides to go to Raw. Miz decides to go to SmackDown, and Rusev, the U.S. champion, decides to go to Raw once again. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are in the main event. They both have an idea of where they want to go. However, they don't want to be drafted to said show. Like example, Stephanie McMahon and Shane McMahon are fighting over who gets who and stuff. So you guys are like really focusing into the match, but they're not the main focus of the match. This is strictly Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins as it is. Seth Rollins wins, and then Dean Ambrose cashes in like in real life. And then the next night on Raw, he comes out and says that, wow, it seems like Raw's got all the champions, but what they don't have is the WWE champion. That's why I'm going to SmackDown. And which infuriates Stephanie McMahon, which Shane McMahon is happy. So Shane McMahon says, how about this? I am willing to give you guys a shot at the WWE Championship. If Dean Ambrose loses, he gets to keep the belt. He gets to keep the belt on SmackDown. If Dean Ambrose wins, he gets to keep the belt on SmackDown. However, if Dean Ambrose loses to the belt goes to Raw. So Stephanie McMahon's thinking of which Raw guy to pick. She just kind of goes through the roster that she's got. People are trying to convince her, like Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. All these people are trying to convince her. And then Stephanie McMahon finally came up with her decision and decided to make Brock Lesnar the number one contender, because Brock Lesnar got a victory over Dean Ambrose at WrestleMania. Plus, that match was garbage, so this will be a great way to redeem the match. So we have Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar at Battleground with special guest referee Seth Rollins. Yes, Seth Rollins will be the special guest referee of this match. Around this time, Roman Reigns is suspended. So we decided to put Seth Rollins here. And part of the reason why Seth Rollins is the referee is because they want everything they can to make Raw the champion, or uh, they want anything they can to keep the WWE Championship on Raw. Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan add an extra stipulation, whereas Seth Rollins even cheats or attacks Dean Ambrose, then they get extra picks. Then they get to swap out draft picks from this match. So, anyways, we do Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose. Is a good match. Seth Rollins is kind of getting in the skin of Dean Ambrose. He's getting pissed off, but Seth Rollins is trying his best because he doesn't want to get fired and he doesn't want to screw over Raw more than it already is. Anyways, Seth Rollins can't take it anymore. We basically do a Bret Hart and Undertaker, and Shawn Michaels is the referee from SummerSlam '97. Seth Rollins pulls a chair, about to hit Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose ducks. He hits Brock Lesnar. Dean Ambrose hits the Dirty Deeds. Seth Rollins does the pin, 1, 2, and he's trying not to, but he has to. And then he unfortunately has to do it 3, and there's that. Now Seth Rollins is the most hated person on Raw. Keep that in mind. Seth Rollins is the most hated person on Raw. But he says that he's the only one who has a chance at even beating Dean Ambrose. He beat Dean Ambrose at SummerSlam 2 years prior. And he wants everything he can to get the WWE Championship. Okay? There's that. Now, Brock Lesnar is pissed. He actually wants to beat the crap out of Seth Rollins. However, while all of this is going on on ESPN Sports, they announced that Goldberg has signed a half-a-year contract with WWE. He's on ESPN Sports. He's getting interviewed by Jonathan Coachman. I think he was there at the time. And he is just like excited. He said, and then they even bring up the fact that they're in a draft. Like, are there any words of you going to Raw or SmackDown? And then he goes, well, they're actually letting me decide where I want to go. So there's that. So anyways, Brock Lesnar is super pissed off. But then Brock Lesnar says that he deserves to be in the main event of SummerSlam. He's the reason why SummerSlam draws is because he's always in the main event. And that is when Goldberg's music hits. We're finally announced that Goldberg is here. We get promos that Goldberg is coming, but he's never been here. So Goldberg finally arrives, and then he says, yes, last time I was in a WWE ring, we had one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history. I specifically came to Raw so I can beat you, Brock, in a legit match. I want a redemption story. This is the match that we want. Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman are laughing, but then eventually Brock Lesnar accepts because this is the one match that will get everybody talking. Now, onto the Seth Rollins storyline. So on SmackDown, Dean Ambrose says that not a single SmackDown guy has gotten a shot at the belt. So, because this is the land of opportunity, I insist a battle royal. The winner of that match faces me tonight. And then Dolph Ziggler wins. So instead we get Dolph Ziggler and Dean Ambrose not at SummerSlam, but on SmackDown, and the same night. So then Dean Ambrose is about to beat Dolph Ziggler, but then Seth Rollins attacks Dolph Ziggler. That means Dolph Ziggler wins by disqualification. That means he gets a future shot in the future, just not immediately. So anyways, Dean Ambrose is pissed at Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins just beats the crap out of Dean Ambrose. And then SmackDown ends with Seth Rollins standing tall. The next Raw, he explains himself that he's not done with Dean Ambrose. He's the only one who has a chance. And then that's when Roman Reigns comes back and says that he never got a fair rematch after his suspension. And they even bring up the fact that he got suspended, and they get personal. And then that is when Mick Foley calls Daniel Bryan. The GMs call each other saying that this is a big match. We need to make SummerSlam the biggest possible. And then Daniel Bryan's like, fine. You got 2 Raw guys and 1 SmackDown guy who have the better odds, but this is a money match that everybody wants to see. So Daniel Bryan agrees to have this match. So at SummerSlam, we have John Cena and AJ Styles, Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt, because Randy Orton comes back after Bray Wyatt injured him in real life. We have the Shield Triple Threat match for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam, and Brock Lesnar and Goldberg. Those are 4 money matches. Now, some of you are wondering, what is Finn Balor doing? Well, he forms the Balor Club, and he comes back. He returns as a heel, and he takes on the New Day on a 3-on-3, because that sounds like a lot of fun. So, anyways, we do that. Now I'm just going to strictly focus on Goldberg, finally. So, anyways, Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, the main event, and it's basically the Survivor Series match. It's a quick squash match. No one would suspect that match to be a squash match, and Goldberg stands tall. And then we don't see Brock Lesnar for the remaining of the year. There is like one segment where Paul Heyman is crying because basically that promo of Paul Heyman crying and saying that when Brock Lesnar will not be done with Goldberg, he will get him at one point. Now, moving on. So, because Dean Ambrose retained the WWE Championship, this all comes back finally, we announce a fatal 4-way at Clash of Champions for a brand new championship, the Universal Championship, and hopefully now we get a brand new design, not the crappy one that we got in real life. But anyways, Goldberg is automatically inserted into this match because he has money, he sells the most tickets, and he's the only one that could beat Brock Lesnar that long, so he needs the best of the best. The rest of them are the other 3 spots, they have to be in number 1 contenders matches. So we do we do Kevin Owens versus I'm trying to think of someone that he could fight. Maybe Kevin Owens versus Big Cass. I had nobody. Then we have Finn Balor versus Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins versus Sami Zayn. All of those 3 matches, the winners of those matches will enter into the Fatal 4-Way with Goldberg. Kevin Owens beats Big Cass, obviously, and thanks to the help of Chris Jericho, his new best friend. Finn Balor beats Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins beats Sami Zayn in the main event. So at Clash of Champions, it's Goldberg, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and Finn Balor for the Universal Championship. And in this match, unfortunately, this would happen. By the way, I just realized I had a Seth Rollins t-shirt. But yeah, Seth Rollins does unfortunately injure Finn Balor, which will take him out of TV for a good portion of the year, but Finn Balor tries his best to stick around in the match. Goldberg pins Kevin Owens, but Kevin Owens unfortunately moves on from this, and he goes on to the tag team division with Chris Jericho to face the New Day for the time being. So anyways, Goldberg will be your first ever Universal Champion. I think the Universal Champion should have been won by a big name, a massive name, so why not make it Goldberg? Seth Rollins says that he was never pinned, that, at this point, Seth Rollins is still a heel, and he wants Goldberg legit match. Like, he talks about how Goldberg is just like a flop. In that match, he was barely even getting any big moves, because around this time Goldberg didn't want to hit big moves, otherwise he would have been injured for good, and that would have sucked. So then at Hell in a Cell, we have Charlotte and Sasha Banks, not main event their show, but we do have that Hell in a Cell match, don't worry. And then we do Goldberg and Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship inside Hell in a Cell. I think this would have been a big money match, or the biggest match they could have done with the Universal Championship. But anyways, Goldberg and Seth Rollins face each other inside Hell in a Cell. Keep in mind, Seth Rollins is a heel. I won't make this a long match. At best, 12 minutes. I think they could do a good enough time with 12 minutes. Because Goldberg shouldn't have that much of a long match. And he shouldn't have any Raw matches. Maybe he has a couple segments with some superstars, like he spears Kurt Hawkins at the time he was undefeated when it came to winning matches. So, there was that. So, anyways, Goldberg beat Seth Rollins, and we are done with Seth Rollins for the time being. Um, then we have Survivor Series where he does not defend the belt, but this is SmackDown versus Raw. And instead of 5-on-5, I would change it up a bit just so each year is different. But we do 4-on-4. It is champions versus champions. The Raw Tag Team Champions, The New Day, Kofi Kingston and Big E, the US Champion Roman Reigns, and the Universal Champion Goldberg facing the WWE Champion AJ Styles, the Wyatt family, the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt, because Bray Wyatt forces Randy Orton to join him, and the IC Champion, The Miz, who wins it back at SmackDown 900 from Dolph Ziggler. Other things we do on the show, we could do the Raw Tag Teams led by Owens and Jericho versus the SmackDown Tag Teams led by American Alpha. You basically get the point of what I'm doing. As far as Seth Rollins goes, we do Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose in a brand supremacy match, the final match for now, and then this is where the night where Triple H screws over Seth Rollins finally because he realized that he's a failure at what he was supposed to do, which makes Seth Rollins a face from now on. So now move on to Raw Champions versus SmackDown Champions. It's the main event of Survivor Series. Miz, who is the brand new guy, he was like the last minute call up because he did beat Dolph Ziggler 3 nights or the Tuesday after Survivor Series. So Miz is the new guy. It starts with Miz. You think it's gonna be Miz and Kofi Kingston. Miz is like not paying attention. Kofi Kingston gives the tag to Goldberg. Goldberg spears the Miz, jackhammer. Miz is out, so now it's 3-on-4. The match goes like a good couple of minutes. Around this time, Roman Reigns and Goldberg are really like not liking each other. Roman Reigns is not a big fan of Goldberg. I think this would set up a mini feud for them coming up pretty soon. Because they couldn't get along, Goldberg unfortunately gets eliminated by Bray Wyatt. And then the final ones are Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. AJ Styles gets eliminated by Goldberg somewhere in the match. No need to worry about that. But anyways, that's what happens. But Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton are the sole survivors, making SmackDown the biggest brand, which upsets everybody. People think it's Roman Reigns' fault. Chris Jericho invites Roman Reigns to the highlight reel. They set up a match, Roman Reigns versus Chris Jericho at Roadblock End of the Line. Kevin Owens finally gets his match against Goldberg, a match he's been anticipating for the longest. So we do Goldberg versus Kevin Owens for the Universal Championship, but that is not the main event. The main event will finally be Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, Women's Championship in a 1-hour Iron Woman match. I think it should be an hour, otherwise don't do it. I don't like Iron Man matches that are 30 minutes. That's just lazy for me personally. So anyways, it ends with Goldberg winning, beating Kevin Owens. Hopefully it's a more competitive match, not as long as it was. But then at the Royal Rumble, we do Goldberg versus Roman Reigns, Battle of the Spears, the match that we were supposed to get at this year's WrestleMania, but unfortunately plans fell through. So anyways, Royal Rumble 2017, we do Goldberg versus Roman Reigns. Around this time, Brock Lesnar finally comes back and says that he will enter the Royal Rumble, and he was already going to cash in his shot against either Goldberg or Roman Reigns. Goldberg does get the better out of Roman Reigns, but he starts showing a little bit more respect to Roman Reigns because he put out a hell of a match. Goldberg picks up Roman Reigns, they do a handshake, and then Roman Reigns walks out. The most dominant person at the Royal Rumble would be Braun Strowman, hear me out, breaking Roman Reigns' record of eliminations, which impresses everybody, meaning that Braun Strowman faces Goldberg at Fastlane, and Braun Strowman even talks to Brock Lesnar, like basically calls him out for being a bitch and this and that. But Braun Strowman says that he is going to be the next Universal Champion and he'll be ready for Brock Lesnar. And then that's when Paul Heyman says, yeah, you'll be sure, get ready for Brock Lesnar, but first be ready for Goldberg because that is a whole different story. So anyway, that Fastlane we do Goldberg versus Braun Strowman. Let's do 5 minutes. I don't think it should be that long. I think it should be like a quick, like big finisher fest, and Goldberg wins, meaning that at the end of the match we have Brock Lesnar F5 Goldberg. He's smiling, he's laughing, and then there's that. Then at WrestleMania, unfortunately, it will not be the main event. It will probably be Roman Reigns and Undertaker, like it did in real life, but Undertaker will retire in my universe. But that's besides the point. But anyways, we do Goldberg and Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. Royal Rumble winner versus Universal Champion. Who goes over? Brock Lesnar. And we do the exact same match we got at WrestleMania 33. A long, like half a year build up of Brock Lesnar just doing everything he can to beat Goldberg once and for good. And then after this, Goldberg retires for good and enters the Hall of Fame. That's my rebooking. I think Goldberg should have stuck around a little bit longer or come out earlier than usual. I don't know what you guys think. Comment below, tell me what you think. I just did this for fun because, I mean, I'm a little bored and it's still like 2 hours left before AEW and NXT start. But anyways, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And until then, this is your Double X Prince. I'm out.